Hey guys, welcome back to another Let Me Explain video. So today I'm going to be talking about Star Wars, and in particular the Return of the Jedi, the sixth entry within the 9 Skywalker saga, and why I believe that Return of the Jedi is the best of the Star Wars films. Whilst most Star Wars films do at least like or love this film, it is widely regarded as the worst of the original trilogy behind The New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. But in my opinion, I believe it is completely underappreciated, and I believe I'm going to explain to you today why I think it's the best of all the Star Wars films, not just the original trilogy. Before I talk about all the things that I love about this film, I will explain some of the things that I think people hate about this film. And one of the main things is obviously the Ewoks. So they are obviously introduced roughly halfway through the film, and they also join the side of the protagonist to help take down the Empire. And I get it, there is a bit of far-fetchedness in terms of them being able to defeat stormtroopers. After all, they are just cuddly little teddy bears essentially, and so like the idea that they are the ones that take down the Empire is kind of insane, especially when you look at the history with the prequels, when you've got like the Jedi, which are obviously destroyed by troopers and whatnot. So I get the hate for Ewoks. I don't share it. I think there is some justification why I think they are fine. They're not amazing characters or anything like that. They're just kind of these cute little teddy bear things, but I don't think that they're as bad as a lot of people paint them to be. The reason why I don't think the Ewoks are that bad is that you have to remember that that final battle with the stormtroopers on Endor is on the Ewoks' home planet. You know, they have home court advantage. They understand the terrain and they use it to their advantage. You know, they're not as technologically advanced, but they do use their own means with rocks and trees and all these surroundings to, you know, kind of outsmart the stormtroopers. And I thought that was quite clever. And, you know, I get it, they're still little teddy bears. They're not that threatening, but I think it was kind of a clever way to show that, you know, these stormtroopers are not invincible if you put them in an environment where they're up against an adversary who know the surroundings and understand the environment. Then you can take them down, you can beat them despite not having quite the same numbers or technological advancements. And some people also have problems with the Obi-Wan revealing that Leia is Luke's sister in this film. Obviously, we all know at this point that was creation by George Lucas when writing this film. It was not always the plan from the start, and not even the plan in Empire. It was completely made up for this film. But if you ask me, I think it can still work that Obi-Wan did not want to tell Luke, because it's kind of maintaining the secrecy to, one, benefit the rebellion, but also not benefit the Empire, because if Vader knows that, it's another target for him to potentially use, and the Emperor too, to target the child of Anakin Skywalker and bring them to the dark side. So I think Obi-Wan playing that kind of cleverly, and, you know, it helps to keep that secret alive and just and kind of bury any chance of the Empire getting their hands on both of the Skywalker children. Most regard Empire Strikes Back as the best Star Wars film, and whilst I adore Empire Strikes Back, and in my opinion it's 1A, 1B in terms of which one I think is the best, and Return of the Jedi being 1A, Empire being 1B. But ultimately I think there's 4 key reasons that I'm going to touch on today that I think put Return of the Jedi just a little bit ahead of Empire for the title of best Star Wars film. So the first key reason why I think this film is the best Star Wars film is the opening act. So this whole opening act is a massive sequence that takes over 45 minutes, all on Tatooine. And it's all about the rescue of Han from the bounty hunters, and namely Jabba the Hutt. And so it's, you know, Luke coming there, Leia coming there, Lando, Chewie, all there to rescue Han Solo and obviously get him out of the carbonite. And to me, this is a fantastic opening sequence because it's showing us a whole new side of the Star Wars universe, this kind of underbelly of the world, not just of Star Wars, but particularly Tatooine, showing this more kind of crime-esque sort of environment and characters that exist within this world. Something that we hadn't quite seen, only been really touched on in A New Hope, but hadn't really seen much of it throughout the trilogy to this point. And it obviously all culminates in the battle on the sail barge, where Luke, you know, gets his lightsaber and helps the good guys to win and to defeat Jabba and all of them. It's just a great sequence from start to finish. You know, from the moment Luke arrives at Jabba's palace to, you know, defeating the Rancor, all these things, the music and all the bounty hunters around, and then the fight on the sail barge. It's just great stuff, and it really helps expand the universe to me. This is world building stuff here. And whilst this opening sequence has no bearing on basically the second or third act of this film, it's just a great bit of lore for the Star Wars universe. It's really kind of unorthodox and kind of a new thing for us to see and experience. And I love it. I love that opening sequence. It's my favorite opening act in all of Star Wars. Just above the Hoth, the Battle of Hoth in Empire Strikes Back. The second key reason for this film's greatness is Luke Skywalker. So obviously, Luke is the main protagonist of this trilogy, but with each film he gets stronger and stronger. We meet him as a farm boy in A New Hope, and he's whiny, he's annoying, he complains about things. He's not particularly likable, but he does go on the hero's journey, and so we follow him and we get to see him, go through training, go through hell essentially in Empire Strikes Back. But now he's basically a Jedi Master. He's not officially a Master, but he has the skills of a Jedi Master, and it's so great to see him in control, just being a badass, taking on Jabba, taking on all these different foes, and then obviously culminating in the third act where he confronts Vader, confronts the Emperor. And it's so great to see him in command and not being whiny and annoying, but instead just kind of more stoic, more in control of the situation. You feel like when he's around, okay, everything's going to be okay. He knows he's one step ahead of everyone. And it's just great. It's the Luke that I love the most, the version of Luke that I love the most. Wish we could have seen more of him. Obviously, it was great to see that version of him for a bit in Mandalorian Season 2, but ultimately, wish we could have got more of it with the sequel trilogy, which sadly we didn't. But yeah, look, Luke Skywalker makes this film great, and he's my favorite hero of all time because of this film. The third thing I love about this film is the Emperor. So obviously we get it teased both in A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, but now he is finally revealed and we get to see him in the flesh. And he is incredibly menacing. He is an amazing villain. Everything about him is great. You still have the mystery. Even though he's been introduced, he's still equally mysterious. He's creepy. The performance by Ian McDiarmid is fantastic. Everything about him is menacing. He's the villain that is worthy of the final chapter of this trilogy. And Darth Vader is already the most iconic villain of all time, but it's amazing that they were able to introduce this character in the Emperor, who's equally as villainous and even more threatening, if you ask me. So he really helps up the stakes of this film and show us how dire the situation is for the rebels. So the fourth and most important reason for this film being the greatest Star Wars film is the third act. To me, the third act of Return of the Jedi is the greatest third act in the history of cinema, or at least in the history of adventure, sci-fi, and action kind of films. You've got three stories going at once. You have the battle on the ground of Endor, you have the space battle over Endor, and then you have the throne room between Luke, Vader, and the Emperor. These three conflicts are perfectly executed in my mind. They are perfectly juggled where they switch between one and the other to show what's happening in each scenario and to show the trajectory where the rebels are getting on top and then the Empire is on top, and just to really build the tension and show how dire the overall situation is and how much it really counts on the most intimate conflict, which is between Luke, Vader, and the Emperor. Obviously also have the land battle with the Ewoks and Rebels versus the Empire, the Stormtroopers there on Endor. It's a great battle. It's showing us a different side of the kind of war aspect of Star Wars, where you get to see this land battle with the AT-STs and just in this kind of forest environment. It's something different to what we had seen before, nothing like it. Then you obviously have the space battle over Endor with the Millennium Falcon and Lando. This to me is the best space battle in all of Star Wars. It's fantastic. It's so awesome to see the Millennium Falcon actually in action for once on the offensive. We're so used to it being chased by TIE fighters and the Empire, but now to see it actually leading a fleet of starships against the Empire is incredible. And the way that whole thing plays out with the Death Star getting involved and destroying rebel ships, and then obviously you got a new trench run scene to take down this Death Star too. It's just fantastic stuff from start to finish. And then there's the throne room. To me, the whole film hinges on this scene, this conflict in particular, and it is executed to perfection. From the moment Luke is introduced to the Emperor, it's just mind game after mind game. The Emperor's really trying to mess with his mind, but then at the same time, Luke is trying to get into Vader's head, and it's perfection. I mean, to finally see the arc of Darth Vader's redemption come full circle to the moment he saves Luke, to me is my favorite moment in all of cinema. It's just amazing. It gives me goosebumps every time. it's what we all want to see. We didn't know we wanted to see it from the first two films, but then once that moment comes, it's like you're dying for Vader to save Luke, and it's perfect cinema in my eyes. And the lightsaber battle is so interesting too, because Vader is not really trying to kill Luke, and Luke is not really trying to kill Vader. It's a very different dynamic compared to Empire Strikes Back, where, you know, there was a real battle taking place there. But this one is very cat and mouse, very cagey. The Emperor's trying to get into Luke's head. Even Vader's trying to get into Luke's head. It's just greatness all around. It's just the peak of cinema in my eyes. And all the way up until obviously the death of Darth Vader is a very emotional scene. It's one of the most emotional scenes I've ever seen in cinema. You know, it's an incredible moment. So few words spoken, but so meaningful and so deep. And yeah, it's a perfect end to this, not just to this film, but to the whole trilogy. The whole third act in general is just perfect in my mind. So yeah, those are my 4 key reasons as to why I believe Return of the Jedi is the best Star Wars film. I have no gripe with anyone that still puts Empire or even A New Hope ahead of it. They're all amazing films in each of their own right. I just believe that this one is the best because there's the most hinging on it to be a satisfying ending to the series, and the third act of this film just delivers on all fronts. It reaches new heights within the Star Wars universe, and in terms of drama and opera and all these things, it's a perfect end to the trilogy. And that's such a hard thing to do. It's so hard to finish a series on a high note, and boy, I think does this do it. Anyways, that's my thoughts on this film and why I believe it's the best of the Star Wars films. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to hear if you agree with me or if you disagree. I want to hear all your points and opinions. If you like this video, please give it a like. And if you're enjoying this video and any other content, please give my channel a subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And anyways, we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.